Hey there, I'm Chelsea. I'm going to be showing you a couple different ways to use your hard foam roller for the next 30 minutes. Now your hard foam roller is great for recovery as well as preventing injury, so we're just going to go ahead and get started. All you're going to need is a hard foam roller. Yours does not have to be this big. You could use one that is a minimum of 12 inches and you should work just fine. So we're going to start by coming onto all fours. You're going to take this hard foam roller horizontally to your mat or just to the ground. And you're going to place your hands on top of the hard foam roller. I should note that this is not going to work very well if you're on carpet. You may want to find a hardwood floor or your yoga mat. And start similar to how we would in a tabletop position. Your wrists are underneath your shoulders and your hips are stacked on top of your knees. Now we're going to work into the upper body here as we start to roll out the forearms and wrists all the way up to the elbows. Send your gaze beyond your hard foam roller, and then you're just going to start to roll the roller to the front of your mat. And then coming on to your forearms, your elbows, you're going to drop your head down between the gate of the biceps. Finding that concavity in the upper back, allow your tailbone to be high. So this is just a version of cat and cows. So as you inhale, we're going to take it back up. You're going to take your wrists underneath your shoulders once again, and you're going to hollow out your belly, drop your chin to your chest, and round the spine. Now your inhale, send your gaze forward. We're going to send that roller forward. As you open up the chest into this extended puppy dog version, relax your head, refrain from letting your elbows splay out to the side. And then we're going to come back up. Your palms come back to the roller, your navel goes towards your spine, your chin towards your chest. We're going to take a couple more here. As you send that roller forward, you lower your heart and chest down, maybe creating a little bit more space in the upper back. And then we're going to come back up. You're going to place your hands and palms onto the roller, chin to your chest as you hollow out the belly. Let's take 2, maybe 3 more as you send it forward, opening up the chest, drop the heart, and then coming back up, you round the spine. Good, 2 more as we send it forward. And then we round. 1 more. We're going to send the hard foam roller forward, holding here. Don't hold the breath, just the posture. Allow your forearms to be heavy on the roller and allow your head to fall down and your chest to fall towards the earth for 3, 2. We roll back through the forearms, taking your palms back onto the roller, hollow out your belly. Good, you're going to lift your chin away from your chest. You're going to keep your hard foam roller horizontally as is. Drop down to your hips. We're going to take a little upper body acupressure here. So you start to lower your T-spine down onto the hard foam roller. So that's your upper back here. And then if you want, you can take your hands behind your head or you can just send them off to the side. I'm going to interlace my hands at the base of the skull. And then just from here, you want to hold. So you want to kind of find that sweet spot if you need to take it up a little bit higher into your back. You don't want to take it into the curvature of your spine though, so keeping it nice and high. If you want more, you're going to press into your feet and begin to lift your hips up. You're going to create a little bit more weight here. Taking more body weight on top of the hard foam roller is going to create additional traction and maybe a little bit more space and some softness. Now to start off here, we're going to stay still. If you'd like, you can drop your head back if that's not too uncomfortable, but that's a really big thoracic spine flexion, so maybe see if you can take your chin up. You can maybe go side to side a little bit or draw your chin to your chest. Maybe lift your hips up a little bit higher. If that's ever too much, you're going to lower your hips down, stay with your hips on the ground, and just find that acupressure from here. Good, we're going to take a few rounds of breath, breathing deeply into the top of that hard foam roller. See if you can find a tension release with each exhale. Maybe if your hips are on the ground for these last few moments, you want to send your hips up. Maybe your gaze goes up towards the sky as we hold for just about 10 more rounds of breath. Just finding this steady shape to relax the spinal muscles. You've got 5, 4, 3, 2, lowering your hips if they're raised. That was a lot on the neck, so pull your chin to your chest here for just a moment. And then we're going to use that to open up the cervical spine now. So sending your feet out in front of you, you're going to sit up. You're going to roll back a little bit more until it comes underneath your head here. So your chin is slightly towards your chest. The head is entirely supported upon your hard foam roller. And then you're going to press your upper back down into the ground and allow your chin to come towards the heart. Now, if your breath feels constricted, you've probably gone a little too far. I want you to keep a little bit of space between your chin and the chest, and then you want to start to find that traction of the cervical spine, that length. Now, if you want a little bit of movement, I think it feels good kind of to go side to side, working to the outer edges of the cervical spine. Maybe you lift your chin up and then down, working to find that sweet spot. You could take your chin towards your shoulders, or maybe just stay here, pressing the shoulder blades deeply into the mat as you draw your chin towards your chest. Deep breaths into the back of the neck. If you experience a lot of sinus tension in the head or migraines, this might be a good way to kind of just move around the synovial fluid of your cervical spine. If you woke up with any kind of sleep injury in the neck, spending a couple moments on your hard foam roller can help reduce any inflammation or tension. Let's take about 10 more rounds of breath. So we work acupressure into the top of the spine as well as the neck. So we're going to start to find a little bit of movement with this hard foam roller. So we're going to come up just onto your elbows so that you can grab for that hard foam roller. We take it back to the upper back. Now this is where we start to find movement. Now I want you to start by bending your knees and then lifting your hips up if that feels okay, taking your hands behind your head. We start here at the mid-spine, and then we're going to go all the way up to the top of the spine. So you want to think about coming all the way to the top of the T-spine, and then you start to come down right to the top of your lumbar spine. So not moving into the curvature of your back, we go back up. We're going to find this movement up and down. If having your hips elevated is just too intense, then you're going to drop your hips down and you can create movement by dragging your hips on the ground. The other thing that might work for you here is to find a gentle lateral movement. So you can kind of go side to side if you feel it more into the right side, all the way kind of into that subscapula. And you could come back to center and then take it over to the left, finding a little bit more weight there. Maybe you go side to side, or forward and backward. So general rule of thumb here, if you find an area of tension or soreness, while you may think it's productive to just hold on top of it, it's actually better to roll out the areas around that tension so that you can start to bring blood flow into that area, and then we're not going to bruise the muscle any further. So we want to do this to increase your circulation, to prevent injury, or maybe you use it as a method of recovery. If you've got sore muscles, if you hold a lot of tension or stress into your upper back and shoulders. take a little bit of movement to reduce that tension. Density in the upper back. Working to decompress that thoracic spine and improving our posture. Let's take about 3 more rounds of breath here. If your hips are still lifted, go ahead and lower them back down. We're going to come off and away from the hard foam roller, and just for a moment, take your hands behind your head. That might have been a lot of tension on the spine. Drop your chin to your chest and fold it in here. Maybe your elbows come in towards your knees as you round. Maybe you go side to side with your neck. All right, now from here, you're going to take your hands outside of your hips. You can roll out that neck further if you need to. But we are going to take this hard foam roller and you're going to take it long ways along the spine. So this is going to be kind of a little party trick. You're going to lift your hips up, sending that tailbone to the base of your hard foam roller so that you can lower your body down. Now, I want to note that I want this along the length of your spine and your head is going to be supportive. So if you are very tall and you don't have one of these long ones, then you're probably going to not do this pose, this position, this exercise. If you feel really unstable, it does help to widen the stance of your feet. You're going to want to feel stable as possible as your tailbone is heavy and your head is supportive. And you're going to send your hands outside of your hips. Now we're going to work into some shoulder mobility. We're going to start on the right side because that's going to be easiest for you guys to see. We're going to inhale, reach your fingertips back. Now chances are your fingertips aren't going to touch the ground, but if they do, we're going to start to take little angel circles. As you take the right fingertips, you graze the ground until that right hand lands back outside of your right hip. Now as we inhale, we send that right arm back, dropping the arm open. Exhale, we open, finding that little half angel wing. Hands come back beside your hip. We're going to take a couple of these here. Now at first, they might feel a little bit sticky as that shoulder joint is tight. And maybe as you start to move through a few of these, the shoulder joint begins to loosen up. You're stirring up that synovial fluid. So maybe you can increase your range of motion, really reaching your fingertips. Maybe the fingertips touch the ground and then eventually slide outside of your hips. We're going to take one more in this direction. Once your hand comes back outside the hip, we are just going to take it in the opposite direction. You start by making that little semicircle, reaching your right hand out to the right side of the room until your fingertips reach to the back of the room, bicep by that right ear, and then send that right hand down towards your hips. So I think we took about 5, maybe 7 on the first side, so we're going to do the same here. Lowering the hand down towards the hip. You open up on your inhale. You exhale, send your hand outside of the right hip. Good, let's take a couple more. This next one, you're going to land that right hand outside of the hip, and now that's going to be your stabilizer. That right palm goes down as we work to find that left arm rotation. Reaching your left hand up and over, you drop your fingertips to the mat or to the ground, and you draw that little semicircle, taking that left hand outside of your left hip. So we're going to take this here, reaching it up and back, and then exhale out to the side. So that same rotation just now on your second side. Again, it might feel a little bit sticky at first. If you feel stuck in one area, lift your fingertips up and away from the mat until you can take your hands down beside your hips with ease. So we're getting a little acupressure along the vertebrae. The shoulder blades are coiling down and around the edge of your hard foam roller to find an expansive clavicle and chest. And the next time that this left hand lands outside the left hip, we're going to take it in the opposite direction. You're going to reach your arm out to the side first, fingertips reach to the back of the room, and then hand goes beside your hips. Again, we're going to take the same amount in this direction, so about 5, maybe 7. Taking as much time as you need to move through these shapes. So here we're working the full range of motion with that shoulder joint. You start to open up, that's that external reach. Then at the top, you pull the bicep in towards the ear, and then take that left hand down beside the left hip. Let's go one more. Left hand lands outside the hip. So now you've got right and left hand outside your hip. Your shoulders are rolling down around the edges of your hard foam roller. If you need more, you can send your hands out to the side. We're going to work a little core stabilization. So taking your feet back, maybe hip distance apart, pressing into your palms and forearms, you're going to pull that right knee in with control, using your low belly, stabilizing your pelvis. We're going to tap your right toes to the ground. Keep drawing your navel towards the spine as we take that right knee back up. So we're finding some movement of that right hip flexor. A little pelvic stabilizer here as you lift and lower. If you're unable to reach your right toes down to the ground without your low back finding a nice big extension and bend, then you're just going to decrease your range of motion, maybe not taking the right toes all the way down to the ground as we lift and lower. Now some of you might want to take open rotations with the knees if you feel comfortable upon your hard foam roller. Just a couple options here. And then we're going to set that right foot down. Plant the right foot as you pull that left knee in, and then tap your left toes down. Again, control the movement from the pelvis. Tailbone is heavy, navel draws in towards the spine as you lift and lower. So this is just a nice little warm-up I'm taking you into, because I'm going to take you into 2 core exercises from here using your hard foam roller. Again, if you need to decrease that range of motion, you can. If you want to open up the hip, finding rotation, if you feel stable. If you roll off, that's okay. You can just come back on. Point and flex your toe if you need to. And then lower that left foot back down. Roll the shoulders open, sending your chest high. Take an inhale. Exhale, you're going to slowly come off of your hard foam roller. As you come off, you're going to roll over back onto hands and onto knees, taking your hard foam roller underneath your hands. So we're going to work a little bit of core here. Now, because you've got this unstable surface, it really challenges the abdominal wall. So you're going to take your hands onto the hard foam roller and just start in a modified position by walking your knees back, shoulders, hips, and the backs of the knees in line. Now you can already feel here you're pressing into your palms, shoulders down away from your ears. And if you're in that modified plank position and you feel confident to move into a full plank position, you're going to tuck your right toe and then the left, coming into plank. Shoulders, hips, and heels in line, navel draws towards the spine, and then you're engaging your core, you're pressing your palms deeply into the hard foam roller, and you're trying to work stabilization here through the upper body as you get that engagement of the mid-body. Squeezing your glutes, not allowing your hips to come up and or down. You want to protect your low spine as we hold for 5, 4, last 3, 2. Lower to knees if you're not already. Child's pose, getting off of your wrists. Big toes touch, knees go wide. Now you're just going to dangle your forearms on top of your hard foam roller. Allow your wrists to release and allow your head to fall. Try not to let your elbows splay out to the side. You want to take the elbows up, dropping head down as you find a nice open low back, releasing the shoulders and the wrists from your plank position. So you can take that core challenge as many times as you like, but I'm going to show you a second one. So when you're ready, you're going to come up forward, coming onto hands and onto knees. Now you're going to take the hard foam roller and roll it back so that it is underneath your ankles this time. So you want to make sure it's completely horizontal, and the tops of your ankles are just draping over the hard foam roller and your toes are free. Now, same thing here. I'm going to start with a modified position. You're going to take your hands underneath your shoulders, shift your hips forward so that you're in that modified plank. You can stay here. It's a great place to be. If you want more, press into your ankles and lift your hips up. You're in that plank pose. And if you want more, you can start to roll forward and backward, working to roll out the tops of the ankles and the tops of the feet, finding flexion and extension of the wrists. Now squeeze your glutes, draw your navel to your spine, keep your shoulders, hips, and heels all in line. Maybe you want to find stillness. Let's hold for 5, 4, last 3, 2, lower knees, keep the roll on top of your ankles, and then lower your hips towards your heels. Allow the legs to be heavy as you reach your fingertips out in front of you, and just come into a child's pose with the support of the hard foam roller underneath your ankles. You can relax your head down. Maybe your knees go wider for a little bit more extension into the hips and space in your low back. You can roll out the wrists if that was a lot. And then you're going to come back up to all fours. Again, you can take that core exercise as many times as you like, but you're going to take your feet off of the hard foam roller. We grab the roller and come onto our backs. So we're going to come into a supported bridge pose. As you come onto your back, you bend your knees. The soles of the feet come down to the ground. You press into all 4 corners of both feet, lifting hips up to slide that hard foam roller horizontally underneath the fleshy parts of your glutes. Now, I like to grab the edges of the hard foam roller just so that it stays nice and stable here. And then soften your glutes and your hips and pelvis and thighs. And just allow for a gentle traction of the sacral and lumbar spine. The tailbone is lifted, the low back is extended. The back of the head and shoulders are heavy onto your mat. And from here, if you want to go further, you're going to extend your feet out in front of you for a nice big psoas stretch. Now your psoas connects your upper body to your low body and it interlaces throughout your hips a few times along the way. So finding this nice extension, you get a really nice supported back bridge here. Allow the hips to be heavy. Maybe your hands stay on the hard foam roller if it feels like it's moving forward and you need a little bit more of a stable structure. Allowing your legs to be soft and your toes to splay out to the side. We're just going to hold here in this nice supportive bridge pose. This is a great recovery if you're spending a lot of time spinning, walking, or jogging. In the front sides of the body, those hip flexors are getting really, really tight. Also great if you're a sufferer of low back pain, if you've been spending more time sitting, maybe spending a little bit more time in immobility. Take just a few rounds of breath here. I take you into a pose that feels really good and that you're enjoying, you can stay there for a little bit longer. And then just move on when and if you're ready. If your legs are extended, bend one knee and then the other until the feet go back down to the mat. Now, if your hands aren't already grasping for your hard foam roller, I would recommend that they go ahead and get there now. Lift your hips up a little bit and slide that hard foam roller up into your low back, maybe an inch or two. Now, once you've got a hold of your hard foam roller, you start to lift one knee up and then the other, and you're kind of in this little supported tabletop. Now, it feels really nice here to go side to side, working to your low back, the tops of the glutes. If you go really far to the side, you might start to feel the edge of your quadratus lumbar. It's okay if you're spending a lot of time sitting lately. This might feel really good. If your glutes are sore, your piriformis, you can kind of roll. You could take your knees in, you could take your toes forward. Maybe you just draw circles on the ceiling to get that full range of motion. The knees can go apart together. Again, you can hold in a place that you're experiencing tension or soreness, but try not to stay too long. You want to work the areas around that space so that we can start to break down that fascia, that adhesion in the muscle tissues. So the hard foam roller is really great for increasing flexibility and increasing your range of motion. And then we're going to take a little inversion here. So if you need to kind of shimmy the hard foam roller up the back a little bit for more support, we're going to send the feet up towards the sky. Ankles over knees, knees over hips, and hips slightly over the heart. If you need more support, take the hard foam roller up closer up the back. If you're fine here, just take your hands onto the bolster, making sure it doesn't shoot out in front of you, not the bolster, the hard foam roller. And then stay here in this nice little inversion. Again, movement might feel good here. You could tuck the feet side to side. You could draw little circles on the ceiling. So as we start to wrap up this little hard foam rolling segment, just know that this is a great addition to any physical practice. It's a nice way to give yourself a little massage. It increases circulation, reduces inflammation. We start to break up that adhesion. And then when you're ready, you're going to lower one foot down and then the opposite foot. And then all you're going to do here is lift your hips up and just roll the hard foam roller to behind your knees, drop your hips down, and start to extend your legs, finding a supported Shavasana with your hard foam roller. You can roll out the wrists. You can allow your arms to fall to the side. Begin to close down your eyes here. If you want more, you can send that hard foam roller up close to your glutes and then get a little acupressure of your hamstrings. Maybe you windshield wipe your knees slightly side to side to get to the edge of the hamstring, the IT band. And then if and when your body calls for stillness, you just allow your legs to soften. The hard foam roller does gentle work in the back sides of the legs as it supports the legs and your low back. If you'd like to scoot that hard foam roller down to be more supportive now of your calves. Allow your feet to dangle. You can find a little bit of movement side to side, releasing your calves, your Achilles. The space where your calves start to meet the backs of your knees. And then once again, soften when you're ready. Take a couple deep rounds of breath. Stay for as long as you like. When you're ready, pull one knee in and then the other. Drawing knees in towards the chest, pressing your low back firmly into the earth. And then just roll to the side, coming up to a seated pose. I want to thank you guys for spending this last 30 minutes with me, finding different ways to use our hard foam roller. And then I will see you guys next time. Thanks a lot.